Welcome back to STL TV Live. I'm Sarah Bernard, and still with me in the studio is author and speaker Suzanne Venker, St. Louisan, nationally known, with an incredibly titled book coming out on Valentine's Day 2013, How to Choose a Husband. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
What is a reader going to find in the book that's going to help, and specifically your reader is women, obviously.
Right. It's actually men too, but we can come back to that.
Yeah, I'm sure men could learn a lot
well
from reading your book. So are there dating rules, or is your target young women, any single woman?
So it's pretty broad, and at the very beginning of the book it actually lays out exactly who this book is for, and it's a pretty big group. Technically, it's for anyone really between the ages of, say, 18 and 35. Mm-hmm. I think the younger set, 18, 19, 20, 21, marriage is just not on their radar the way that it was 40 years ago. So I think from that angle, it's probably going to be a little bit more for the 25 to 35 set. Although it should be for the younger set because they should be thinking about it, but not doing it, but they should be planning for it in a way that's different than they are. So it really covers a broad group. But with respect to the dating rules or men, one of the things that I have sort of inadvertently stumbled onto in my work is this huge sort of subculture, if you will, of men, single men, who are rejecting marriage for a very specific reason, and that is that women today are really no longer women. And what I mean by that, the traditional notion of what women have historically
so like their ideal woman has perhaps changed.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is the inherent nature of women being nurturing, gentle, kind, that sort of old-fashioned, we consider that sort of an old-fashioned creature. If we think of maybe somebody like Audrey Hepburn, for example, who I think is actually a great example of really a feminine woman. Well, a lot of men that I've spoken with are really turned off by sort of the modern woman of today who asserts her independence and strength and power in the workforce as though that's some leg up for the relationship. So, for example, I know one man who has been with the single Match.com or eHarmony and has met scores of women on first dates, and they all their descriptions are the same, that they are well-traveled and that they have PhD and that it's all about themselves and how great they are. Well, what's in it for him? These are the women.
Okay.
And he's saying, that's not a saleable trait. Those aren't saleable traits. Why would that work for me? In a relationship, why am I looking for that in a nurturing, loving relationship? How does that benefit me? In other words, he's looking more for, or they're looking more for, more selfless women who are considering other people besides themselves in the whole picture, and they're finding that it's just a lot of me, 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 me.
So, and conversely, what are the traits that a young woman should be looking for in a potential husband?
Oh, that's a good question. So I do cover that in the book in great detail, actually. One of the things that I say that's very sort of counterintuitive to the modern woman is that, guess what? You really should look for a man who can support you. Now, I have to, of course, qualify that by saying what I'm referring to is when you're mapping out your life as a young woman and you're thinking about X amount of years of your future, there's going to come a time in your life when you are going to want to take care of the children that you presumably will have. And not everybody does, but most people do. If you have not married someone who is capable of carrying the load, you are not going to have the option to even stay home in the first place. So this is very much against what modern women have been raised to think, which is never depend on a man, never depend on a man, that's awful. And I'm coming along and saying, that has basically screwed up an entire generation of women.
Yeah. Now we have to wrap up in a minute, but one of the things that you've talked about is the image, or that you've written about, the image of marriage versus the reality of marriage.
Yeah.
Can you just really quick tell us a little bit about that?
So I was married once before. I have been married by the time the book comes out for almost 15 years. I have 2 children, 9 and 12. But prior to that, I had a marriage, what they call a starter marriage, which I hate that phrase, but 4 years, no kids, in my 20s. And if I were to compare that marriage to my current marriage, I would say that the one thing that stands out is I wanted to be married more than I wanted to marry him. And I think a lot of people today are getting married for the wrong reasons. They want a baby.
It's the right time in their life.
They've been living together for a couple years. Why not? I mean, there's a whole slew of very non-purposeful reasons why people are getting married today, which is very different from the way it used to be and is not a healthy way to approach marriage.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things we need to address if we are going to fix marriage in any kind of way.
So there's obviously, we could talk for an hour or longer on this,
Definitely.
which we have.
Yes.
So we do need to take a break, unfortunately. Suzanne Venker's book, How to Choose a Husband, will be coming out, released on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2013. You'll be hearing a lot more about Suzanne and her book in the next few months. It's going to attract a lot of attention, and we are excited about some of the ideas that you've got coming up. So I want to thank Suzanne for being with us today. We do need to take another break. Remember to keep up with STL TV and all the great events going on around St. Louis. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can always watch us streaming live on stltv.net. Stay tuned to STL TV.